Today we are making sourdough whole wheat waffles. These are absolutely delicious. Start by putting a cooling rack on a pan and cover that with a tea towel. Put it in a 200-degree oven, and that's where we'll keep the waffles as we bake them to keep them warm. Into our dry ingredient bowl, we are going to add our flour, and this is freshly milled whole wheat flour. And this next ingredient is a little bit of sugar. It's not too much, but it's enough to make the waffles really beautifully golden brown when they've baked. To our flour and sugar, we now add a little bit of salt. It's only 10 grams. It's not very much at all for the amount of flour and ingredients that we're going to be using. And next we're going to sift in some baking soda. Our wet ingredients are going to include some discard and some buttermilk, so the baking soda mixed with those two acidic ingredients will give us a really light and airy waffle. Once that's sifted in, we'll take our whisk and whisk all our dry ingredients together, then set it aside. And then we'll take another bowl and add our wet ingredients, which begin with our sourdough discard. To that we will add our eggs. And once our eggs are all in, we're going to take the same whisk we used for the dry ingredients and whisk the eggs and the starter until they're smooth and there's no bits or chunks of starter behind. And just whisk it until everything is smooth and well incorporated before we add our buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk, you can use a mixture of yogurt and milk, or even milk that's been slightly thickened with a bit of vinegar. I've done it with all three, and they all work out just the same, and my kids never noticed a difference. So we add our buttermilk and whisk that really well. And then we will add our melted butter. I like to add everything separately to make sure everything is whisked in completely and properly before we move on. I also like to scrape everything down since I took means to measure everything out. So we get all our butter in and whisk that in. And once that's completely whisked together, we are going to take all our wet ingredients and whisk them into the dry ingredients. Again, scraping everything down, keeping things neat. And we're going to whisk the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients until it's relatively smooth and we don't have any dry flour left. We want all the flour well incorporated and moist because whole wheat flour really likes to absorb liquid. This should be fairly loose and liquid when it's done mixing. So we're just going to whisk everything until there's no dry flour left. And then we are going to set it aside while we heat our waffle iron. And I like to scrape my bowl down again, leaving the edge clean before we begin cooking waffles. Now, you can use whatever kind of waffle iron you have. I have a Belgian flip style waffle iron, but plug it in, make sure it's heated well enough, and once it's ready, it's time to cook our waffles. So now we are going to take our waffle batter and we're going to add about a cup of it to our waffle iron. And again, just cover the base completely, close the lid. In my case, you flip it, but follow the directions for your waffle iron. Mine cook in about 4 minutes. I keep them in the oven under the tea towel until I finish cooking all 9, which is what this recipe makes. Feel free to have it if 9 is too many. But there's a beautiful, light and airy waffle, and they taste so good, and they are good for you. Enjoy.